Hello friends, today we make a multi-angle jig for the table saw. Let's get started. So for materials today I've got a few different things. For the runner we're going to be using a piece of maple which I'm going to have to mill to be a perfect fit in my track. Then I'm going to use a scrap piece of 2x material. I've been using these in a lot of my recent builds, and this is eventually going to be a handle that I'm just going to grab and push this. And this is going to be a backboard with screws in it that the long piece with the actual angle cuts is going to be able to screw into whenever I need to make those appropriate adjustments. It's a 3/4 inch piece of plywood, a cheap, just a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ply, but it's not bowed, which is nice and important. And then, speaking of things not bowing, I've got a piece of MDF. Now this is, honestly, it's like 3/8 of an inch, so it's probably 1/2 inch MDF. And I have had this in storage forever, seriously, over a decade, and it's gotten paint and it's ready to be used. I'm going to cut these into 3 strips, a little bit over 3 inches, probably 3 1/4, and then once they're glued together, I'm going to clean them and this up so that they're the same height, the same width, and it's going to end up being about 3 inches. So, let's get cutting the MDF. Special thanks to RZ Industries for sponsoring this video and for keeping my airways clean. For more information on the masks that I'm wearing, check out the link in the description below. Now, while we're waiting for the glue to dry on that MDF, I'm going to take this maple blank here and get it so it just fits in the tracks of my table saw. This is just about 3/4 of an inch, and this is just too wide. So I'm going to make some incremental passes along my blade here, and I've got a good push stick that's about 1/2 inch thick. So it should give me enough support, pressure top down and side to side, because this is a fine cut. Anyways, I'm going to just take off a little bit at a time and test fit it until it is snug, doesn't wobble like this in the track, but it's not too tight, you know? It's a finessing point, but I do love to use maple. I like to use maple instead of using plastic. My workshop is in my basement, and so it usually stays between 55 and 65 degrees Fahrenheit at any given time throughout the year. Brick house, underground, you know, climate controlled. And my wood just doesn't seem to have a lot of ebb and flow throughout the year, so I've never had a problem. I basically just want an elongated oval to hold on to. If I had a dull, that would be just fine, but I don't. So I'm going to make a longer rectangle, and I'm going to put a big route on it with my router, a 1/2 inch route, to make it nice and easy to hold on to. Alright, now onto the pushing handle. This was that scrap of plywood. This is going to go up like so, and the MDF is going to screw to it in front. I've got a piece back here that can just provide some extra support and keep this at a perfect 90-degree angle. Then I found just a scrap cutoff that this is a perfect 90 degree here. I'm going to glue and screw it in, and it just happens to come right to the top here. Looks nice aesthetically, doesn't have to. Again, it's just reinforcing that 90 degree angle. And then here's my push that I just made on the chop saw, and it's going to go on the back like so. So when I'm pushing, I'll push like this, and I'll hold the wood down like so. And I've got a fun little doodad. It's like playing with Legos as a kid, or building blocks and making shapes, except this time it's going to help with woodwork. Alright, so now on to the fun part. Now that I have the handle all situated, and I've cut up my nice and thick MDF, it's 3 inches wide, top and bottom, you see it's just like this. I am going to take, and I'm going to be sliding this along. I don't need to make a cut for a perfect 90-degree angle, because all I have to do for that is to bring the board to the end naturally. So I'm just going to bring the first cut past the end here. But what I'm going to be doing is making a series of cuts along this board at varying increments. And for me, I've just arbitrarily decided that I want to cut every 5 degrees. So we'll have 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, etc. up until 45. So I'm going to be getting those perfect measurements by using my digital angle gauge, and I turn my blade on this side of my table saw, and I'll show you a close-up of that in just a moment. But I'm going to position them by putting 2 screws in the back. So I'm going to drill, and they're going to come out here, probably 4 inches apart, nothing fancy or scientific, and those are going to go into the back of this without protruding through. And then the spacing for every angle is going to be 1 every 4 inches. So say the first cut is going to be here. The next one, I'd unscrew these and put the left screw over to the position of the right screw, screw it in, and then drill the next hole. And then move it over, do the same thing, and repeat. And that's how my arbitrary spacing is going to be. And once I've done all the cuts that I want, I'll cut this to the final length. Now, if I want in the future to have a very specific thing, say I need to make a 37.5 degree angle at the end of a board regularly, that's fine. I can add some different holes, and I can put it between my 35 and my 40 mark, and then just mark it up. The sky's the limit, really, for whatever angles you think you want. Now, I don't know if I'm really going to be using all these angles, if ever, but I know I want the option. Instead of taking my crosscut sled or something and getting a different angle and just chewing it up, I think this is going to be a better option. So, let's get to cutting those angles. Well, as always, I'm very pleased with how this turned out. It was kind of fun. You can see at the end that I ended up making a change. I was going to go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 until the very end, but then I realized halfway through that if I went all the way to the end, then when I was doing this with making cuts with a board, something at a 45-degree angle, I wouldn't have any more overhang backboard to push the board up against. And I like to keep my my runner on the left-hand side with my blade over here, so I just decided halfway through to continue along in between the original cuts that I had made, and I thought, well, that's a fine decision. So, artistic choice, as it were. So, I think it's kind of cool, very simple. It was fun to make this pusher, and it was good to get to use some use out of this MDF, and I can think maybe there's going to be a couple situations where I might need a repetitive 30-degree, and of course 45 is pretty common, and maybe if I'm putting just a decorative angle on something 5 degrees at the bottom of like a foot that I've tapered already for a dresser or something, that might come in handy. So I cut these all to about 1.5 inches tall. I doubt that I'll be cutting anything higher than that on the edge, on the end of a board. I could be wrong, but I think this should suit me very well. So, what do you do to cut angles at the end of boards? Be sure to let me know in the comments section below. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. While you're here, be sure and subscribe. I've got over 150 videos. I'm sure there's something you're bound to like. I've also got a Patreon page if you'd like to contribute directly to what you see. So, thanks for taking the time. Until next time, bye!